everybody, and welcome back to the kitchen. We are making zucchini relish today, and this is a recipe that I've been making since the early 80s when I first got married. Well, actually, no, I guess I got married in 87, so late 80s, excuse me. I'm making myself older than I am. But anyways, this is a recipe out of Canadian Living magazine. I love Canadian Living magazines, but it's kind of a tried and true that I've made for many, many years, and it's quite similar to the brand name Willie's Zucchini Relish. For those of you that are around the same age as me, it was really popular in the 80s, and so this was a recipe that I thought was really, really close, and that's why I love it. Great with hot dogs, hamburgers, or just any grilled meat. Okay, so we're gonna go over the prep a little bit. I'm gonna show you, my vegetables are all ready to go. They've already sat in the salt. And then while they're rinsing off, I'm gonna go over just the prep with you really quickly, okay? So I have 8 cups of finely chopped zucchini. I did use the food processor, but you could certainly use a box grater and just grate them. I've done it like that many, many times. I just happened to have the food processor this morning. And I also use the food processor for the onions, but you could chop the onions as well. Excuse me. So then I have, okay, so I have 8 cups finely chopped zucchini. And I use the fine grater on the food processor, but you could use the coarse one or the fine, that's a matter of taste. 2 cups of finely chopped onions, which I put through the same fine grater on the food processor. And then I have a cup of finely chopped red pepper and a half a cup of finely chopped orange, or no, wait a minute. Sorry, I have 1 cup of finely chopped red pepper, correct? And then a half a cup of finely chopped yellow pepper instead of green. So you can substitute those. Any sweet peppers will do. And for me, it's more about the color. I just like the look of the yellow and the red in there. So you can do as you wish. And if you only have 1 type of pepper, don't worry, just do it all. Just do a total of 1.5 cups of whatever sweet peppers you have or combination of. Okay, so I shredded that all, measured it out, put it in my bowl. Then I added my 1/4 cup of pickling salt, and then I let it sit. I've been stirring it occasionally. You can see all that liquid starting to come out. So what I'm going to do now is I have a large colander in the sink. I'm going to put this on. I'm going to turn on the water just to rinse it through, and then while that's rinsing, I'm going to show you just something very briefly here. So I'm running cold water on this. I know you can't see me, but I'm running cold water and I'm stirring it around with my spoon just to mix all the water in. Okay. Just get rid of all that salt. Okay, and now I've turned it off. I'm just going to let the water strain through while I talk to you a little bit about the zucchini. So this is the size zucchini that I used. My zucchini in my garden's not ready yet, just so I could get this done for you guys this week. While I head out of town, I just picked some up. So these are Ontario zucchini. But what I wanted to show you was you want very tiny seeds or none at all. Okay. So when you're preparing this, you're going to cut off the top. You can leave the bottom or you can cut it off as you wish. I usually cut it off and I just throw those in the composter. Okay. But what I want to show you is the inside. So these have, even though these are good size zucchini, you can see they have next to no seeds in here, okay? I know in my own garden, depending on the varieties, we sometimes grow the Italian varieties, which are lighter green than these. They start to get bigger seeds, not much even bigger than this. And sometimes even this size, they'll have big seeds. And if they do, you wanna cut those seeds out, okay? And I know a lot of the times people that grow zucchini, sometimes they miss one and it gets super huge. As far as I'm concerned, they're compost. Those ones that are super huge, they're all full of seeds. The flesh is really, really hard. So I try and stay away from those. I just throw them in the compost and they contribute to next year's garden. But I mean, if you got one, even say like about this big, that still was fairly tender and it had seeds in it, what you would want to do is you would want to quarter it. So in half and then quarter, and then just slice out
like that down, slice out all the seeds and compost the seeds or throw them out, and then just make your relish with the remaining flesh, okay? Because these have next to no seeds or teeny tiny ones, they're fine. So you can just put the whole thing in the food processor or with the grater. So for those of you that have never worked with zucchini before, yeah, we keep the skin on in a lot of things actually, not just in relish. Okay, so that's just something I wanted to tell you about the zucchini. The light or the dark ones are totally fine. For the pepper, so like I said to you, I used red and yellow. So this is a red one here. So if you were using the grater to grate these, I would leave them in half, so you don't cut yourself in the quarters. I would leave them in half, or even whole, depending on how tall they are. If they're really short, you might want to cut them in pieces. And you can do that really quickly with a box grater. Don't think you have to have a food processor. And then the onions, I would dice them. I would just do a regular, like just a small dice of the onions. I used one really large Spanish onion. I posted a picture of the veggies that I picked up yesterday. This is all stuff I picked up at Mosboro, and I had one large Spanish onion, and it was almost exactly, what was it, 2 cups? Yeah, 2 cups finely chopped onion. It was almost exactly this one large onion. Okay, so for the peppers, what you want to do is you want to cut them in the middle. You want to remove the seeds and all this little kind of membrane here. Okay, so you can just pop that out like that. We'll compost that. And then what you have left is your half. I'm left-handed, you might be opposite, so you want to do your strips. Okay, and then line up your strips, and then you want nice little cubes. Okay, there we go. And that is pretty simple and straightforward. Don't worry about your cutting skills. They don't have to be perfect. They're all going to melt together in that beautiful relish. Okay, so let me go give those another rinse. I'll let them drain off a little bit more, and then we'll just quickly go through our ingredients. I like to move them around in the colander, just using my hand and the large spoon here, just to kind of help everything strain away. There's lots of liquid, so the salt will get rid of all that extra liquid. Okay, there we go. Just wipe my hands and I will be back. So, okay, so let's go over what we've got here. So I've got 2.5 cups of just regular sugar, white sugar, granulated sugar, 1.5 cups of white vinegar. That's just regular white vinegar. It's not pickling vinegar. I know Bonnie asked in my post today. 1.5 teaspoons of dry mustard. Okay, so dry powdered mustard, not prepared. 1 teaspoon of celery seeds. Oh, right here. Those will give some nice flavor. 1/2 teaspoon of coarsely ground black pepper. So I just used my pepper mill and I ground it up on a paper towel and then measured it. 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. There it is. That adds a beautiful color and flavor. And then 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, which I have in this little container with my little tiny whisk. You could just use a fork even if you want. And then I have a tablespoon of water nearby that we're going to mix in there when it calls that. Okay. Also too, this makes 500 ml jars of relish. So I have them in my canner. They're just next to me here, just like we've done every time. I had it come up to a boil, I put them in, and actually what I've done now is I've just turned them off. So they'll just stay warm in there because we're gonna have to cook down our jam, our relish for about 20-25 minutes. So I'll turn that back on when I need. But in the meantime, they'll stay nice and hot. They're sterile in there. They're all ready to go. I've got my rings ready. I've got a wooden spoon and a ladle. Got my funnel, my jar lifter, my magnet, just like usual, and then my snap lids. My jars today are 5 standard jars. They're not wide mouth. So I've got 4 snap lids for standard jars in there. I haven't boiled them yet again because we're not going to be doing this, actually filling the jars for a little while. Okay, so I'm going to go grab our vegetables that are ready there because we have rinsed them off. I am going to press them against the colander just to get any final liquid. So tell you what, let me move this and then I'll bring them over here where you can see them. bang, bang, bang. That's nice. Okay, so actually what I did was I put the colander inside a big steel pot so I can, or steel bowl so I can show you. So you can actually press down on them and you'll see lots of liquid will come out. Okay, and then we'll move it around. So you can see mine are really, really fine. Do you know what? When I used to always hand grate my zucchini, and I always did it on the coarse one, kind of where you would shred mozzarella, so the kind of wider one. I didn't really have a food processor till probably not even that long. Like probably, did I have one before? I think maybe just before I started the cooking school. So I've only had a food processor maybe 10 years. So I used to always do it by hand. And then my first food processor, it didn't have the fine one. It only had the coarse one. And then this new one has got the fine one. So I've actually never done it with the fine one before, and I thought I would give it a try this time. So don't think if yours is coarse that it's wrong. I always did coarse. I'm just going to try it a little finer this time. Okay, so you can see most of the liquid is gone and it's still dripping out there. Okay, so it's not dry, it's still wet, but just most of the liquid is gone. Okay, and actually this is going to sit here while we make up our ingredients for our relish. Anyway, so it's going to continue to drain a little bit there. Okay, so I've got a medium-sized pot here, and to this I'm going to add the sugar, vinegar, mustard, celery seeds, pepper, and turmeric. Bring to a boil, and then I'm going to add the drained vegetables. Return to a boil, stirring frequently. Then we're going to simmer, uncover for 25 minutes. Okay, so let's get this started. And don't worry, I'm not going to videotape the whole 25 minutes for you. So in goes our white vinegar. And again, that is, like I said, that is just regular white vinegar, because the question was, can we use pickling vinegar? My judgment tells me no, because pickling vinegar, it is higher in acidity. It's 7% instead of 5%. But also pickling vinegar that you would use for, say, pickles, you don't really consume that liquid. They just pickle the vinegars, and they just kind of, or sorry, pickle the pickle the cucumbers or the pickles in there. You don't actually consume the vinegar, but in a relish you actually do. So that little 2% extra in acidity might be too strong. So I mean, you could try it, but my guess would be that it would be too strong. And besides, we're going to be doing lots of canning projects. You'll have another opportunity to use that. Okay, so in we go. So next we've got our celery seeds. My kids hate when I do relish because the house smells like relish. I, in fact, like it very much. So this is really easy. It's all going in. This was one of the first recipes I ever used turmeric for. And I had never heard of it, never experienced it until I started making this relish back in the 80s. And of course, being an Italian girl, I never used turmeric for anything, right? So, but the reason I'm bringing that up is there's been a lot of really good press about it in anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, all kinds of good things about turmeric. So this was the first recipe I ever used it for. So just kind of reminded me of that. So, okay, so we're going to bring this up to a boil. I'm just referring to our instructions here. Stirring frequently. So we'll bring it to a boil, then we're going to add in our veggies. And I mean, even just while we've been sitting here, there's been more liquid that's kind of accumulated. If you even just move your spoon around, that will actually kind of release little pockets of liquid. This is actually pretty good now. So you don't want it dry, but you just want all the loose. So you can see there's just a few little drops. Okay, so I would say that's good to go. This is boiling, so let's add it all in. So it goes in all at once. Okay, so we're going to bring that up to a boil and then down to a simmer. So we're not, so it was boiling on its own, just the liquid. Now I've added the vegetables, so of course it's no longer boiling because that was room temperature. So now we're waiting for it to come back up to a boil. Then we're going to turn it down to a simmer, and we're going to let it simmer for about 25 minutes. And that's going to cook our vegetables. They're going to pick up all the flavor from all the spices that we have in there. So let's get that going. I'm just going to grab a cloth. Now I find this makes 4 500 ml jars, and I find that's plenty for my household and for how much we use it, because we use it mostly just for hamburgers and hot dogs. It's plenty, because you don't, I mean, relish, right? You don't use a whole lot of each setting or serving size rather. So, but this can be doubled. You could double it if you want. You wouldn't be able to fit 8 500 ml jars probably in your canner though. So that's the only thing. But I find I often don't double this unless I'm planning on giving it away. Because I just find 4 500 ml jars is quite a lot of relish for my house anyways. And the colors look so nice. Look, see those colors? That's why I like to mix. The chunks of green with the green pepper would be fine too. I love rainbow peppers. I use them in a lot of things. Okay, so we're gonna let this go until the vegetables are tender and the sauce is starting to thicken up. So I'm gonna just show you. So right now it's very watery, okay? So I'm gonna turn it down to a simmer, and I'm gonna let this go for 20-25 minutes with the lid off on low. Your stove's gonna be different from mine. Mine's an induction, and I've got it at about 5.5. Let me go to 6. I wanna see a little bit of movement in there, but I don't want it to be hard boiling, okay? So let me see if I can get it. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's just making a little sound, and maybe I'll do a little video of that so I can post it for you guys. I told you I was gonna start doing that. If there's something interesting going on in the pot, I could keep you. Okay, here we are. So this is what I would call a simmer on like a medium heat for our relish. And as you can see, just since I've been talking, it's actually picked up a little bit. So if that happens, you might want to turn it down just a smidge, which is what I've done. Okay, so we're gonna let it go there for 20-25 minutes and just stirring occasionally. Okay, so there. So that I will post so you guys can see the actual inside the pot. We're gonna give this a stir, and then I'm gonna let this simmer, and then I will see you back in about 20 minutes, and we'll finish this up. Okay, everybody, we're back. So we've been cooking down for about 20 minutes, about 22 minutes is actually how long mine did. So what you're looking for is the liquid's reduced and it's starting to thicken up, okay? So although the liquid is, it's still fairly thin, but the main thing is the liquid is reduced. So it's a lot less. When we add the cornstarch and water, that'll actually start to thicken it up. Okay, so we're still on low heat. I'm gonna add my 1 tablespoon of water to my 2 teaspoons of cornstarch in there. And you just need to mix that up. I'm just using a little tiny whisk here, but you could just use anything to mix it. Yeah, until the vegetables are tender and the sauce is thick. I wouldn't really say thick. It's more like it's reduced and the vegetables are cooked. The sauce is gonna get thick now. So then a salt bowl, mix this up, and then we're gonna add this, and then we're gonna cook it down for a further 5 minutes till the liquid runs clear. It's gonna be kind of cloudy when we add that. Okay, so that's all gonna go in. Make sure there's no lumps. Okay, mix it up. It's gonna be kind of cloudy, and then we're gonna let it go until it's clear. We're gonna just stir it occasionally. I'm actually gonna turn it up a tiny bit just to get a little bit of action going in there. Okay, so the liquid's kind of cloudy, but we're gonna let it go till it's clear, and now the cornstarch will help thicken up that liquid. Okay, and then if you remember, I told you my jars have been in here the whole time, been sanitized, staying nice and hot. I'm gonna fish them out with my tongs, and then we'll just keep an eye on this on the liquid. It's getting clearer already. It won't take long. So 1, 2, 3, and last one. And I'm going to leave this water in here because I'm going to use it again as well, right? So we'll get ready to go. I'm going to turn on my small pot with my snap lids, okay? We'll get those going because we're going to need them very soon. Bring those up to a boil. I'm going to put the lid on here, maybe keep that water hot because we're going to use it. This is starting to bubble just a little bit. Oh, it smells really good. And we've been going for a few minutes. Oh, glasses are fogging up. And it is, it's pretty clear. Just got a tiny bit of a cloud, I would say. So let it go for another minute or so. And then it's ready to go. Oh, that's my timer. Just gonna wipe down my counter, guys. Let me just get my cloth. This is sticky, this stuff. So if you get this on, if you don't get it right away, it gets really sticky. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see that real well, but it's certainly clear now. I'm going to turn it off. And we have a clean cloth nearby to wipe our lids, or our rim. Our snap lids have come to a boil, so I'm going to strain away this water. So here we go. So again, the actual part of actually making the relish is pretty quick. It's pretty easy, pretty quick. The most time-consuming part, again, is just getting the vegetables ready. So, in they go. I'm gonna do this and then I'll top them up so they're all about the same. This one here for head space, we're looking at 1/8 of an inch. Oh, and I don't have my tool handy. Where the heck's my tool? I'll have to find it. My daughter's using my kitchen right now to videotape her baking videos for her summer baking kit. She's been approved as a summer student company, so she's making kids baking kits and she's doing her videotapes just like her mom. And so my kitchen goes from baking to canning stuff, and I have a feeling she tucked it away in the cupboard for my measuring, so let me find it. It's actually not. I don't know where the heck it's going. 1, 2. Anyways, I'm going to divide this up. I can see that this is going to be exactly for, this one's going to get topped up a little bit more. And actually, I'm going to get rid of this now. I'm just going to use a spoon for the last bit. We have to check for our bubbles, so I will have to find that tool. Where the heck is it? Well, the 1/8 of an inch headspace, that's the tiniest one. So we've been doing mostly 1/4 of an inch, which was always up to the first line. So this can actually go even past that first first line. So okay, so that's that. Let me have a quick peek for my tool. Oh, here it is, here it is. Found it. Again, yeah, my canning stuff got moved out. So here we are, it's already clean. So, so headspace. So 1/8 of an inch is the tiny, tiny one. So yeah, we're good for this. Okay, but now we're gonna go in and we're going to remove any air bubbles. And like I've said to you before, these thicker ones, they're the ones that the air bubbles get trapped more. So I'm pulling this instrument towards me between the glass and the relish, okay, and releasing any air bubbles. I haven't really seen any, but maybe there were some on your side that I couldn't see. So, okay, so we're going to do that, and our headspace is all good on these. And actually, yeah, this recipe, it's not very often you do a canning recipe where it's exact, but because this was measurement and not like this was actual measured in cups, our ingredients, and those eight cups of zucchini, I don't know if I included on the recipe, it's about 3 pounds, so I should go back and actually add that. Because when I went to the market yesterday to get mine, I had to have the lady at the market show me the zucchini so I could kind of guesstimate. And I think I bought 6 of that size that I showed you today, and I ended up using 5 because that 6th one I used to demonstrate for you. And I always get a little bit extra because you could open one up and it could have a bad piece on the inside that you cut away that you can't see from the outside, and then you're kind of stuck if it's not something that you happen to have more of around. So anyway, so it's about 3 pounds is what the finished one is. Okay, so there we go. Those are our 4 beautiful jars, and actually they look really nice in the fine grating of the zucchini as opposed to the coarser that I've done in the past. So it just makes it finer, that's all. The taste is not going to affect the flavor or anything, the texture maybe a little bit, but like I said, I've always done it coarse, and I thought this time I would try it fine. So we'll see what the texture's like when we taste it, but I'm guessing it's going to be good. It smells amazing. I love this jam, it's so yummy. So there we go. Okay, so we've got those wiped, and then we've got our new snap lids here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We've got our 4 rings, and then we are going to, so finger, same as always, so this is hot, we're going to finger tighten, okay? So as soon as it starts to give a little bit, that's pretty much it, okay? And the reason is if that's too tight, the air cannot escape, right? Because when they're boiling and the air pressure is changing inside, some of that air is escaping and it creates like a vacuum seal. So if this is too tight, if your ring's too tight, then that can't happen, okay? So that's why they're only finger tight. You want to allow, okay? So just till it starts to give a little bit and just a tad bit more, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4 jars of zucchini relish all ready to go back in our water bath. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera. I don't think so, but you've seen it lots of weeks. So, okay, so same thing. We're going to pop those in. I've got my rack in there. They should be covered by about 1 inch. Okay, I'm going to process these just according to the recipe, which is 10 minutes. So that's not going to take long because the jam was just boiled and it's good and hot when we dealt with it. And the water was just boiled. The jars are still really hot, so this will not take long at all. And also, too, there's only 4 jars in there. Now mine, the water is going just to the top of the jar. So I'm gonna add some hot water just to speed it up a bit. And I only want is for it to be about 1 inch above the jars. So just a little bit more. And the only reason I'm using hot is just so it comes up quicker. You can use whatever you like. Okay, so it's a good inch above. We're gonna close it up. Once it comes to a hard boil, we're gonna let it go for 10 minutes. From a hard boil, then, just like all the other times, we're gonna turn off the pot after 10 minutes. We're gonna let the water settle down, let them sit in there for a good 5 minutes, and then we're gonna carefully take them out with the jar lifter, place them on the tea towel here for at least 24 hours. Let them settle, cool down here. Hopefully they'll all seal nicely. I'll hear them pop. And then into the root cellar they'll go, and we'll add them to the shelf. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. For those of you that have never done relish before, I hope you give it a try. It's a real easy one. I'm not a big fan of cucumber relish, to be honest with you, but this I like. I find it a little bit milder. It's not as vinegary, if that's a word, as a cucumber relish, and the texture's a little different. It's a little softer. I find most people do like it, and it's a great way to use up all that zucchini that we know is coming. So have a great day. Enjoy Canada Day. Today is Monday. I'm videotaping this early. So hope you had a wonderful Canada Day, because by the time you see this, it'll all be gone. Take care. Cheers.